that being said for this slide, let's move on to the next slide. There are few exceptions for this expedited reporting. See, for example, you know the timelines. We are going to talk about the timelines in the next slide. But if there are few observations that can change the benefit risk profile of your drug, you have to report it in an expedited manner, not like 7 days or 15 days. Here, what you have to do is you have to submit it within 3 calendar days to EMA in case if there is any lack of efficacy with life-threatening diseases, vaccines, or contraceptives. Okay, if there is any lack of efficacy that is related to life-threatening diseases, say for example that you have been prescribing an inhaler for asthma, which is going to prevent the life-threatening complications. In such case, if it is not efficacious, you have to report it within 3 calendar days to EMA. At the same time, vaccines. If the vaccine is not showing any efficacy, you have to report it. And for contraceptives, if the subject is taking contraceptives and if she is becoming pregnant, again, that is an example of lack of efficacy. In all these 3 scenarios, you have to report to EMA within 3 calendar days. And certain other conditions where you will report in an expedited manner is if you have any safety concerns from non-clinical studies or clinical studies or epi studies. I'll explain you with an example. Say for example, you are working in a phase 2 clinical trial and few animal studies are going on in studying the toxicity of that drug. So what happens there is, if you see that they are giving this drug to any rats or monkeys or dog, whichever animal they have selected to study the toxicity, if they have injected and if they find lot of fatal reactions, so it may not be translated to the humans, but if it is of safety concern and if you are able to make a decision that this is going to be a safety concern, even though it may not be translated, but you feel like it has to be reported. So what you have to do is you have to report it in an expedited manner. And then serious expected increased rate of occurrence with clinical important cases that has also been reported in an expedited manner. Say for example, if you are giving a drug and you know that this drug is capable of causing cough. Okay, say for example that you're working on a drug with AC inhibitors and you know that it is going to create a cough. It is of, and you know that it is of manageable risk. We are not going to report it because it is not of that much of clinical importance. But you know that you are giving a drug and it is capable of lowering the seizure threshold and capable of causing seizures. You know that it is serious and expected for this drug. When you are in phase 2 clinical trial, if you see out of 100 cases, if you see around 15 to 20 cases, you know that it is serious and expected. When you go into, when the drug is evolving and if you go into this phase 3 trial and when you give it to multiple patients, and what happens here is that instead of 10 to 15 cases, you are seeing in every 10 cases 1 or 2, then there is an increased rate of occurrence of this adverse event. And you know that it is clinically important because seizures has to be managed in an efficient way. So in all these scenarios, you will expedite and report it to the health authorities in a not in the regular time frame, in a earlier time frame. Next, these are the expedited timelines. As you know that you might have learned this in this seriousness assessment module. But to reinforce the timelines again, all serious, fatal, life-threatening cases that has to be reported within 7 calendar days from initial receive date. And all non-fatal, life-threatening, serious cases, this has to be reported within 15 calendar days from clock start date. This clock start date or initial receive date, both are the same. Okay, so it is like once you receive from that, in that 7 calendar days, you have to report it if it is fatal and life